Hello everyone, welcome back to the Lumley trading live stream. Now we've got a few big names that are moving today, and then obviously if you did catch it, VIR, which is a biomedical technology company, they actually got halted pre-market, and actually this chart will show you everything a bit clearer on what happened. So here you'll see it unhalted from this area here. So this got halted at 8 a.m. because it came out, let me get the exact news, but it was to do with their phase 2 trial basically failing. Yeah, they got halted, and then at 8:30 they were being released and they could trade as normal again. But again, their phase 2 study for the FDA did fail, or at least did not come out as expected. So again, that was the massive sell-off, sold at below all the key levels that we had. So very oversold as of now. Again, I wouldn't like to touch the initial release, but if we can break back above this VWAP and hold, then potentially could target that anchored VWAP and then look to target the deviations. But really below this level, you can normally be quite long bias, but it's how much you're having on the table, because again, you've got to have quite wide stops on something like that. So that's firstly one thing I'm paying attention to. Let me just quickly send that out. And then obviously we did have Tesla and Netflix earnings last night. So we'll go over there in a sec. We also had IBM, so they're up 2% today. So we're moving strong off those releases. Let me just quickly update these charts. So we also had AAL come out today. We also had UAL. We also had Netflix. And then we will also have Tesla on this chart. So again, a lot of big names have been releasing their earnings. So we'll start seeing how all of these start to react. On the open, again, the SPY and the ES are being super strong. Not seeing much movement on the bonds or the currencies. And VIX is starting to drop, but it did gap up. So those are some of the key things. Again, on Tesla, we did end up gapping down below a lot of the key levels. Or below the 289 or 290. Actually, now it's changed to 290.60 is what it's changed to. So we'll actually update all of these. Again, I think that this is going to be a common appearance that we see in coming into earnings. It's the earnings can be relatively well. Like Tesla did beat its earnings per share. Netflix destroyed its earnings per share. Had 5+ million new users sign up compared to the 2.9 million expected. But we're still selling off all this news. And again, the reason for this is just look at the charts zoomed out. It makes a lot of sense. Firstly, how have these charts been performing? Skyrocketing. Even just go from, say, June. What's happened since June 1st? We were around here, 396. Since then, we were up 25%. 25% in, a month and a half. When there hasn't been too much serious news coming out. What do you think this is? This is a pricing in of good expectations. You're becoming overbought. Look where you are at the charts. You're becoming extremely overbought. So unless earnings absolutely destroy expectations, you're going to fall on it. If they come out in line, you're going to fall. If they become out a bit less than expected, you're going to crash. And that's what I think you're seeing across the board. You're seeing it on technology. You're seeing it on airlines. I don't think you're really seeing it on healthcare, because UNH had theirs recently. And yeah, you're not having it. But again, look where they are from the chart perspective. They're not overbought, or they weren't extremely overbought. They were basically at fair value. Earnings drop. So then they're going to move with the consensus, and then they came out strong. So you're going to move up. So I think that's the key thing to be paying attention to, is when you're looking at the names, look where they are from the longer term perspective, because that's really going to tell you how they're going to move off the earnings result. Again, you saw on Delta, they had their earnings. We are extremely overbought. You got that drop off. It did actually get bought into, but we're still not breaking those highs. And again, they had good earnings. They had better than expected, but you're just extremely overbought. So you just expect to start seeing these sell-offs. So that's one thing I wanted to note, because especially on the Netflix one yesterday, a lot of people were surprised that it was dropping. And again, if you zoom out, it should make everything a lot clearer on why we're selling off, because then from that perspective should make a lot more sense. Again, AAL is starting to kind of give into a lot of the loss. You have UAL actually up on the day. American Airlines still down though. Again, Delta we can actually get rid of. We can throw, say, Tesla there. Again, we got Netflix on the left down 7.5%. Tesla also down about 8%. No, sorry, about 3.8%. And to quickly run through actually what they had, again, you can check this out in the Discord or Twitter or even Stock Twits where we post all this stuff. So again, to start off with Tesla then, revenues were 24.9 billion with estimates of 24.51 billion. So beat on the revenue. Adjusted earnings per share, 91 cents. Their estimates were only 81 cents. So again, beat. Gross margin was 18.2% compared to the estimates of 18.8%. And we also had the free cash flow come in at 1 billion compared to the estimates of 2.18 billion. And again, those last two were the two reasons I think they've taken this as a lot bad, or kind of worse news and why you're selling off. Because again, the stock was becoming overbought and the earnings weren't fantastic. Yes, you beat on the revenue line, you beat on the earnings per share, but you had some weaknesses. You had the poor cash flow, you had a decrease in the gross margin. So as soon as you see this, again, if everything's not beating when the stock's overbought, you're going to sell off. Same thing on Netflix. So revenues came in at 8.19 billion. You then had the estimates of 8.3 billion. So their revenue actually came in a tiny bit less than expected by about 10 million. But the other key thing is that earnings per share did actually beat, which means that their margins were probably better because their earnings per share came in at 329 compared to the estimates of 285. So quite a strong beat. And also their streaming paid net change. So they were expecting to get about 2 million new sign-ups, but that actually came in at 5.89 million. But again, we're selling off this news because again, the revenues were a bit weaker than expected, even though they did do a better earnings per share. So again, the stock was overbought, and unless the earnings are spectacular, you're gonna sell off. IBM as well, revenues came in at 15.48 billion compared to the estimates of 15.54, so a tiny miss. Earnings per share were $2.18 compared to the estimates of $2, so a beat on that. Software revenue came in at 6.61 billion. Slightly beating the estimates of 6.35 billion. You had their consulting revenue come in at 5 billion or 5 billion point 1 or 01 compared to the estimates of 5 billion, and again free cash flow coming in at 2.10 billion compared to the estimates of 3 billion. So what we're actually seeing, and between Tesla, I don't think we saw what the Netflix free cash flow was, but the IBM net free cash flow is we're seeing a lot of these companies actually having a lot less free cash flow than expected. And again, we don't know the exact reason for this. It might be they're trying to pay off debts while the interest rates are going up on any of the shorter term debts, which are likely to increase. Could be what we're seeing. But I think those were the key things to cover. Again, we covered VIR. You also had Walmart. Walmart introduces Walmart Plus Assist. This is a program that offers customers on government assistance 50% off monthly or annual Walmart Plus paid membership plan. You also again had the US initial jobless claims come out today. The release was at 228,000 compared to the estimates of 240,000. So again, that's normally taken as a relatively good thing for the stock indices, because if the rate comes in lower, less likely for hikes. So again, can be weak for the currency, bad for the bonds, good for the stocks. The thing with this though was actually on the initial release, we didn't actually move too much. It's not a massive number, but we did end up actually getting a quick sell-off and a fade on the indices. On the bonds and the dollar, the bonds and the currencies, you actually had a bit more of a strong move that didn't fade right away. Also, we do have Russia imposes restriction on movements of British diplomats in Russia. JP Morgan also forecasts Q1 2024 US natural gas prices to average $3. So again, just look at it now. That's quite a big difference. But right now we're sitting at 2.7. Again, we didn't go through the American Airlines earnings. So again, why they're moving today, earnings per share came in at $1.92 compared to the estimates of $1.59. So quite a strong beat on that. Passenger revenue came in at just under 13 billion compared to the estimates of 12.6 billion. Load factor came in at 86.2% compared to the estimates of 85.7%. And available seat miles came in at 69.7 billion compared to the estimates of 69.1 billion. So again, American Airlines basically beat on everything that was key. But again, selling off that news. Why is that? Again, it's a zooming out of it. Made a lot of sense. We look where you are compared to the key levels. It makes sense that you sold off. From a deviation perspective, again, you've hit it there. You're still at it on the 6 month. You are extremely overbought at this area. So again, unless the earnings are a massive beat, you're going to sell off. And that's why we've come down to a more realistic level. Because again, this move was very big for something where there wasn't much news coming out. So again, it's kind of, it's been priced in. We're starting to sell off. Again, wouldn't even be surprised to see a bit more of a move back down to fair value around $16. But again, that would probably require the overall market to continue to pull back as well. I think that is a key stuff for so far now. Just having a quick look through, but I can't really see anything else looking too important. So we may just let the news play out for a bit unless anything key comes out.
And we'll buy the stock maybe 175, buy more.
To the point we made during the Mad Dash, Jim, J&J shares are having a very good day. In contrast to much of the year, up over 4% now.
Okay, well, J&J, then they handled, the stock dipped down when they start talking about some of the litigation. If they get past the litigation, let me just give you this. It goes to 180.
It goes where?
To 180. If they can just get the plaintiffs to agree to the $8.9 billion offer,
okay,
and you get rid of the talc issue,
yep,
180. Because they have the fastest growing pharmaceutical business in the world,
right,
major, and they've got the fastest growing med tech business in the world.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bend over like this, but yes,
no, that's okay.
I do my best to hear you, and I don't want to sacrifice the viewers at home.
We apologize to all of our viewers sometimes for just how loud it can be here at the New York Stock Exchange.
So that we can't hear each other. That's the only reason why. If I can't hear David, I'm not a
bells ringing
person
everywhere. Jim, before we go to a quick break, anything else that you want to hit this morning that we haven't referenced yet? Obviously, Tesla shares sort of hanging in where we thought they'd be, down about 4.5%. We hit Taiwan Semi.
I think we should hit IBM.
Oh, yeah, IBM. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so IBM, I like the quarter very much because their hybrid cloud plan is working. The analysts don't even seem to focus on it anymore. And then there'll be other people who say, listen, it's all done with mirrors. But IBM had good cash flow. People were willing to actually talk about tolerate that this quarter wasn't perfect. And I like that. What's happening, and I want to go over, these are different things. I mentioned Horton because of the Fed, not because I want you to buy Horton stock. Okay?
Understood.
I mentioned IBM because people have given up on IBM, and maybe that's not right to give up on a 4.7% yielder that actually kept the free cash flow number.
They did. They stuck with that cash flow number because there had been some questions about that. Free cash flow was $3.4 billion. Year to date, net cash from operating activities is $6.4 billion, but they got a long way to go for the rest of the year. That said, they're sticking with it.
I know, yeah, but I just think that to sell it here may not make all the sense in the world. David, I'm looking at Tesla down 13. I'm saying people want to sell Tesla. They should go back and listen to the conference call, which was quite subdued.
Right.
Musk was subdued, but he's really not. He's just very thoughtful. It's not like the old Musk, okay? He's very thoughtful.
He's going to always surprise you. So he is thoughtful, but he can be both. He can be thoughtful, and he can also be, frankly, obnoxious. Right?
No doubt about it. Yeah, well, he's been obnoxious to me. It's all right. I'm thick-skinned.
I mean,
I'm Jimmy Chill. Didn't you feel that his talk about self-driving and that there is a company that may have to use his technology, just like all the charging companies?
Yes.
When we announce the company, people are going to say, "I can't believe it. Buy the stock."
Listen, if we have fleets of robo-taxis made up of Teslas, this will hit that market cap number that Ron Barron and Kathy Wood see.
Right.
Yeah.
IBM is still staying super strong, still pushing near those highs, or at those highs, coming into Tesla 140.
Man, you are bullish.
No, I happen to like great American companies, and we don't celebrate them. And I'm determined to change.
You do. Every day you try to change that.
Executives, people in the Netflix conference are brilliant.
We're not cheerleaders, man. We're here to try and, tell it like it is.
I recognize greatness when I see it, whether it's in football or this. We got guys like Jefferson, Aaron Rodgers, okay? There, I got guys better than Aaron Rodgers.
Can't wait for Hard Knocks, by the way, focusing on my New York Jets. All right, let's give you a quick look at the bond market, do a bond report, check out how treasuries are faring this morning. We talked a little about the Fed, didn't we? Where's yields? There they are. 2 years, 4.85. You can see the 10 is 3.82. We're back right after this.
Oh, well, NNDM going to explode once it breaks that 320.20. It's close. Let me have a quick look. I haven't really touched this. I traded it, I think, last week. And it was just a slow mover, so I kind of just stopped trading it. We got out for a small profit and called it a day. Yeah, kind of just been consolidating on that level for a week now. Let me put that up. Quickly move that out of the way. Yeah, so the thing I can see then on NNDM is at 316, and we can actually remove those other levels. So 316, 315, that's our second deviation on the 6 month and 1 year. So looks like we're holding this as a strong resistance for now. But yeah, if we're able to snap, can definitely see a move to 338, 349. But from that level, that's when I would turn quite short bias and look to play the downside move on that kind of thing. Well, that's at least what I'm looking at, Archie. Don't know exactly what you're looking at, if you're looking at something a bit different. But yeah, that's the play I'm looking at it as well. You can also see on the 1 year, or the 1 day, 1 year chart, it's actually holding up on the other side, but for some reason on the 4 hour chart, so the 6 month chart, starting to see a massive divergence for some reason. Also, it's still easy to borrow, so I will put an alert out. If you can kind of push those 330 third devs again, I'll probably look to play a reversal. But again, we'll just see how it goes.
We could stare at the stars and start believing. I'm never gonna survive unless I've got you near me now.
Also starting to like the look of the anchored VWAP actually a bit more now on UAL. So you can see obviously from the open, we kind of did test this. And it is, again, paired with a deviation. That's always going to make those levels super strong. But it was on the open, so I wanted to give it time to play out. But if we're able to retest this level, the $55 to around $54.80, anchored VWAP and our deviational levels should be a strong support. So definitely something I'm looking at for a potential long on UAL.
There's Apple. Up yet again. Let me check that market value.
Chimerical
Almost
story.
very close to a $3.1 trillion.
Interested in AI. They've been doing AI for years.
I know, they've been doing AI for
They've
years.
been AI before AI.
We'll take a quick break. We'll get Stop Trading, and if we have a little time, we'll talk some Apple. Back after this.
I still always find that the most pointless segment of the CNBC live thing. Is what's the point of coming back for 15 seconds and then just going again? But either way, again, yeah, so on NNDM I got the alerts out, but not too fussed as of right now. Again, I guess the main ones still on watch are going to be the Teslas, the Netflix, UAL, and AAL. Again, my main trading opportunity I can see is firstly Tesla. If it can come back to Tesla 290, I like that. But again, then it has to come back 5%, so don't think that's all that likely. But again, if we get it, it'll be great. Anchored VWAP, because again, don't forget the anchored VWAP will come down by then, so you'll probably see the anchored VWAP and that deviation line up will be a super high probability trade. Again, the euro is bouncing off those lows, so we'll see if we can continue down on that, but it does seem to be holding. And again, the S&P currently giving a slight pullback now, but if we do continue up, going to be coming into yesterday's close. Again, on the SPY, that's for $455.20. So if there's any stocks you guys are looking at, let me know and we can run through them real quick. Again, Netflix, don't think I'm going to get any trading opportunities off that today. UAL, looking for that bounce off the kind of $55. American Airlines, probably not going to be trading that one either. And again, Tesla, unless we can push back to kind of fill the gap, which I think would be unlikely, that would be the opportunity I'd be looking at on there. Then to quickly, I guess, pull up the gap scanners, we have PRFX. This stock must have traded ages ago because I've got lines on it. This is from 2021, so this stock must have been a previous mover. Again, I've placed these lines in July, or basically 2 years ago, basically today. So yeah, this was a big previous mover. It's holding that anchored view up quite nice though. I don't actually currently know what the news is off this release, so let me quickly see if I can see that. Regains compliance with NASDAQ listing rule. I don't know why they weren't the minimum bid requirement. Have they had a reverse stock split and it's just not showing up or something? That's the only thing I can kind of see making sense, because I can't really see why else. You had from the 14th, they offer $1.5 million in securities offering. But yeah, the only thing I can just see is they regain compliance with the NASDAQ continued listing requirements. And I would think the only one they would have been in breach of is being the under the dollar. So unless they've just done a 10-for-1 reverse, I'm not too sure.
All right, let's get to stop trading. And if we have a little time, maybe we can get to Kenvue a bit and J&J.
Yeah, because
are you doing it to stop trading?
Yes,
oh,
because the stock jumped. J&J jumped when, because look, it was a great quarter. When they announced that this exchange offer with Kenvue is going to happen in a couple of days. It's not going to be months overhang. Right. And they're going to be able to do the biggest buyback in history, I think. They can buy back all the Kenvue they want.
Well, let's explain what's going on. Let's explain to people what's happening. J&J, remember Kenvue was a very large IPO, went public. It's all those over-the-counter. Right. Well, and we're going to talk to the CEO in the next hour.
Oh, great.
J&J owns 89.6% of Kenvue still. The question was, are you going to do a split-off or a spin-off? So they've gone the split-off route, exchange offer, as you just explained, Jim. And so if you're a J&J shareholder, you have an opportunity to exchange some of your J&J shares for Kenvue shares in a tax-free manner.
Right. Now, they got to do it with the right ratio, because we know that IFF and DuPont weren't able to do it right.
Right.
If they do it the right ratio, then J&J will be buying back an incredible number of shares, so to speak.
Yep.
And this stock, J&J turnaround, is now a big, just when they announced that this is going to happen. So you have to ask the Kenvue. What's happening is that there are people who don't want to own Kenvue. Okay?
Well, and there could be, as you say, the tender for it could happen in the next, they say, coming days. Coming days.
So that's what turned the stock around, not the average, not the pharma pipeline, even though the pharma pipeline.
They usually give you some sort of discount to make it worth your while to want to do it. But the other idea is it creates a shareholder base for Kenvue. You have shareholders who want to be shareholders, as opposed to you just get these shares and then you don't really want them, maybe, or they don't fit with your.
That's what happened with Glaxo.
And then you sell them.
So I think you've got to ask the Kenvue CEO about the ratio, but this is very bullish for J&J.
It is.
Yeah, it's very bullish, because they can do a gigantic buyback, and they can end up just doing, it's just fabulous. And J&J talks about that. Exchange offer provides J&J with the potential opportunity to acquire a large number of outstanding shares of J&J common stock.
Quick thing I wanted to know on TSM. So again, they did have their earnings today. Earnings per share of $1.14. $97.55 is fair value on the 1 year chart. So you can see that's why I kind of went to the open. We tested that. We're getting a bit of a bounce. Don't really trade off those though, but if we can continue lower at $92.15, that's our closest deviation. That's our first deviation on the 6 month. That would be the spot I would be paying attention to.
Very good, Jeff.
Jim?
Medical devices.
If I don't see you, enjoy the weekend.
Medical devices,
is tomorrow,
David,
Friday?
are broadening. Abbott Labs, Medtronic, EW, J&J Medical Device. That's what people are talking about. It's a broadening. Watch Abbott Labs. This is the first really great quarter for Abbott. Well, since Robert Ford took over, it's a very good example. No more COVID hangover. Lots of good stuff to talk about today.
Okay. All right. Jim Cramer, everybody. Coming up, more reaction to results from Tesla and Netflix. Keep it here.
What NNDM is now at 323. It's already come back to 322. Yeah, this NNDM, I said, at least it's not a stock I care too much for. Not one I pay too much attention to. If it can crack the highs, oh, it's actually potentially doing it now at 324. From around, I don't know why that sounded echoey. From 340, I'm happy to look at this short bias. Again, it's easy to borrow, got options on it, so can really trade this in any way we want. So it could be alright from that perspective. I'm just not a fan of these kind of stocks where they barcode. I think you're more likely to kind of get done in on stocks like that. So again, not going to be something I trade with too much size if I trade it at all. SPY is kind of filled the gap and now pushing to the downside, testing the VWAP on the futures. You also have Tesla moving down again, 270 and 50 cents is a support.
Live for you, as always, from Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Carl has the morning off. Take a look at stocks here in the early action. Mixed picture as the Dow pushes forward up 220 points. Not bad. S&P 500 unchanged, and that's the story. The NASDAQ, it lags today, down 0.5%. After some high-profile names like Netflix and Tesla sell off, hard to call them misses. I would say some blemishes in that report, leading to some stock sell-offs. We're going to talk about all of that in just a moment. We are 30 minutes here into the trading session. Three big movers we're watching. Let's start with Tesla.
Again, we've also got Tesla about to crack the, Netflix about to crack the lows.
More on those names in a moment. On the bright side, Johnson & Johnson, biggest Dow gainer in early trading, delivering an earnings beat, hiking its full-year guidance on strong medtech sales. And Vir Biotech down more than 40% after the company's phase 2 trial for its flu treatment failed to meet its main goals. You can see what happens there on some of these biotechs when that happens.
Yeah, that can be a bad day, as you're seeing right there. All right, we got some economic data crossing the tape for that. Let's get to Rick Santelli. Rick.
Thanks, David. Yes, our June read on leading economic indicators down 0.7%. And that means it's down 15 consecutive months, meaning negative month-over-month change 15 consecutive months in a row. This morning we had Philly Fed, 11 consecutive negative month-over-month changes in a row, and down 0.7 is the worst, well, only since March when it was down 1.2. But here's something notable. We haven't had a positive number since February of 22. Now, for existing home sales for the month of June, let's head east to Diana Olick. Diana?
Well, Rick, existing home sales fell. That's a sales down nearly 19% year over year, and that is the slowest June sales pace in 14 years. It is all about lack of supply. There were just 1.08 million homes for sale at the end of June, down 13.6% year over year. At the current sales pace, that's just a 3.1 month supply. 6 months is considered a balanced market between buyer and seller. Well, that's keeping pressure on prices. The median price of a home sold in June, $410,200. That is the second highest price of all time, off less than 1% from last June. But remember, this is a median, so part of that is skewed toward what's selling, and higher mortgage rates are keeping sales stronger on the lower end. Now, real home prices, measured by repeat sales of similar homes, have been rising now for several months. First-time buyers dropped to just 27% from 30% a year ago. Historically, they're usually 40% of the market. All-cash sales rose to 26%. Because as the market heats up, buyers need cash to be competitive. Back to you guys.
Yeah, with rates so high. Diana, thank you very much. Diana Olick. Just want to add in a few economic data points to the mix in the conversation today that we got. And, you know, Rick mentioned Philly Fed. I think it's worth diving into Philly Fed because we knew that these regional manufacturing numbers are weak. And this one it was down 13.5, 11 straight down months. But something very interesting is happening in Philadelphia. David, look at the end of the chart.
Okay.
So the current activity is the orange below, which is weak. The black is the future activity, which is really perking up in a surprisingly nice way. And what we're talking about, and this is a survey, is that 40% now of the firms surveyed in Philadelphia manufacturing expect increases in activity over the next 6 months. Only 11%.
Also, just put the key levels on J&J. So again, you had the 163.22, kind of just broke straight through that. A bit of a retest, continued on to the 166.25. Again, came into that, pulled back, retest, and now broken. So the next level after that is 171.37. So probably won't see that today, but something to be paying attention to.
Which is just odd and unpredicted because of all the tightening that's happened. You know, we're at the same time that we're starting to see demand for labor cool off a little bit. See jobless claims today, they came down by 9,000. It was another good number.
Is that Philly Fed number in any way indicative of the future in the way it's predicted?
It can be.
Yeah.
You know, it can also not be.
And again, Netflix still near those lows, so we'll see if we can start cracking those. And Tesla is key, coming into a key level. Just to confirm, it's still at that level. Oh no, it's actually a bit different. These levels keep updating too quick because the stock keeps moving too far. Never mind, we've already broken that. That's at 272.80. $87 actually. So never mind, we've already hit that level. So again, we can see if buying pressure starts to kind of kick in a bit. But it looks like we're cracking down. 270 can still be a key level there. You got that psychological level. Again, Netflix near the lows. UAL still not as keen on that anchored VWAP play now. It's getting a bit too far from the deviational level. Seeing a bit of a bounce on Tesla on the 1 minute, but we'll see how it acts. And again, the futures have flown through the VWAP. And now we're seeing SPY coming into yesterday's low of day, starting to get a bit of a bounce on there. If we crack that, then paying attention to the futures lower day and see if we can start holding that instead. I think that would be my main focus on the overall market. Again, the euros are still near yesterday's low, so that means that the dollar's near the highs. And again, the 2 years and bonds across the board are also near those lows. Starting to get a bit of a bounce now, but on Tesla above that 272.87 level. So we'll see if we can start holding that level. If we can get a close above this level, could be a good ideal push, and probably could see it move to VWAP. But again, we need to give it a bit more time to kind of play out a bit.
Hard to tell what the hell's going on because one indicator is good and the next shows that things are weakening. And just to show you how relevant right now it is of where you sit, Las Vegas Sands reported last night. Commentary from the CEO couldn't have been more bullish as far as what they're seeing in demand. Here's Robert Goldstein.
Again, if you guys want any stocks as well to run through, just let me know the ticker and we can run through those as well.
Still room to run in both those markets. And that was in China-related business and Asia-related business, David, which people have been sort of negative on.
Yeah, well, they've been concerned about the willingness of the Chinese consumer to spend.
D.R. Horton had pretty strong things to say about the health of the housing market. D.R. Horton's chairman. Let's look at the macro commentary. Despite continued higher mortgage rates and inflationary pressures, our net sales orders increased 37% as the supply of both new and existing homes at affordable price points remains limited and demographics supporting housing demand remain favorable. What that shows is that there's supply issues in the housing market, and that's helped them.
That's been the story all along. I would note, by the way, that stock has turned around. It was up in the very early going, up as much as 3%. So D.R. Horton shares have turned around here, but not quite certain as to why. But as we pointed out many times, the home builders overall, there you can see it, have had an incredible move.
Also, again, on the, you're right, Sarah. Also, the key thing on that VIR is, again, we're still seeing it obviously down 42% on the day. Again, this is down to the phase 2 trial failing. Not something I'm long biased on. It's not normally an overreaction because these overreact when the news is good. When they're to the downside, again, they kind of justify being down at the lows. So I'll be a bit more cautious if you're long bias on VIR. Also, as well, you're seeing a move on the euro now. Euro's cracking the lows. Looks like we could be breaking the intraday low. Breaking yesterday's low. So again, dollar is getting strong. Dollar's near those highs. You're seeing weakness on the bonds, and now the indices. So the stock indices are starting to hold actually a bit better, surprisingly. And I think the key things, and again, Netflix is relatively looking strong because the markets are selling off, but it's able to be holding its lows, which is interesting to see. UAL seems to be a bit more market driven. Looks like we could be coming back down to the anchored VWAP, and seems like Tesla may be able to hold that 272.87 deviation.
He's not in the consulting business, seeing some of what some of the competitors are seeing in terms of cancellation of projects or reduced signings. They still see customers pivoting to bigger projects on cloud and on AI. And my take there is that's not recessionary, because what you see enterprise spending drop when companies are bracing for a recession.
Right.
Also, US June existing home sales are down minus 3.3%.
Fox, of course, who runs Blackstone, or is president of Blackstone, saying, again, very positive things, but also saying expectations he has are that the Fed is going to keep moving.
So the Fed is going to move next week. We know that.
Also, if you guys are enjoying so far, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe.
That it's one and done. The market now thinks they're done after this, and they're going to be cutting by March. Is that really what's going to happen? If we start to see more acceleration, and the Fed's paying attention to all these other signals, could that mean inflation?
Big crack on the euro dollar. Again, the euro's got super weak. Dollar's obviously at the highs, seeing and nearly going to break the lows on the bonds. And again, the S&P, the SPY has actually just cracked yesterday's lows. Just testing that as a support now in the futures. Again, that's the second chart in on the bottom. So the ES futures are currently holding that low. If we retest that, probably going to crack, and we could see a push down to that $4,579 level. Hi Lumley, how do you see NEO? Let me quickly put up the chart and we can run through that real quick. So NEO, I'll show you what I'm looking at quickly then on NEO. I'll put it here so it doesn't interrupt all the charts. Actually, I'll put it over here. Actually, I'll do the key levels because things are moving right now. NEO, though, overall is slightly overbought. Actually, I'll just be quick. Slightly overbought. So again, when you're above this level, you're above this level, you're a bit overbought. So we're seeing a bounce off that second deviation on the 6 month to expect that pullback to basically where we are now. If you see buying pressure come in, we would expect a break of $11 and see a push to $12.60. If we fail to hold this, then expect to move down to $9.75 and then probably in time $8.30. So that's what I'd be looking at on NEO.
And then this is the drum roll, the Super Bowl, to now what I believe is monetization of Super.
Seems to be holding, I'm talking about the ES futures, seems to be holding that low quite nice. And Tesla's also getting strong off that deviational level. Also seeing UAL coming back. Looks like we could be testing the anchored VWAP as a support.
I mean, he said early days. It's never clear. We got no clarity on who it is or how far along or whether it may even come to fruition.
But ultimately, this is, for Musk, I think ultimately this is really the first step of what's going to be a broader strategy, because they've built it. I mean, if you look at FSD,
Full self-driving.
Full self-driving, and I'll argue, Sarah, that's AI. I mean, we could talk. It's basically AI for automakers. You look at full self-driving.
Glad it helped. Deep lounge music. Looks like we're going to crack the lows on NEO anyway. So from an intraday perspective, would be pretty weak because we're still selling off while the ES and the SPY is bouncing.
And I think that's why this year, I think this is just.
Yeah, I think Tesla's going to hold this level as well, so it could be a bit long bias, probably play it to VWAP, so 3 points upside. Again, UAL pulling back, could potentially look to play long on the anchored VWAP. Going to do a bit more reduced size though, because it is kind of got a bit far now from that deviation level, and I prefer it when they line up together.
And I think last night was just another chess move while other automakers sit there playing checkers.
What about the factory potential delay of shipments? That was something that was flagged on the call.
Yeah, and
is that a big deal?
Yeah, and that's one where, and to your point, a bit of a downtick, production offline from a manufacturing perspective. See, I view that as really what's going to be the start of a refresh for Model 3s. So I think that's a smart move, because you're going to have refresh of Model 3s, you got Model Ys, and then ultimately the Cybertruck, we think production starts around Halloween. I think we will start to see Cybertrucks on the road in the month of December.
You do. And do you think people are actually going to buy them?
I think right now, if I look just where price points are and just what demand looks like from pre-orders, this could be something where ultimately it's $200,000-300K per year as it starts to ramp in terms of Cybertruck. And that's why Austin, if you look...
UAL near that level now. Also seeing quite a big divergence between AAL and UAL. So again, United, American Airlines, and what's UAL again? United Airlines. So again, AAL is down 6%. United Airlines is actually still up 1.5%. So quite a big difference. Euro's pushing those lows again. So again, dollar at the highs, and it looks like the ES is going to retest those lows. Expect it to break lower then. Could be targeting probably that pre-market low on the S&P futures.
But David, to my view here is that we are in the second inning of just a massive transformation in this fourth industrial revolution, not just in terms of electric vehicles, but I believe also when it comes to Tesla, it's the AI story. I think the sum of the parts story, I view this as an AWS moment, similar to what we saw with Amazon, AWS.
You said it.
That's starting to happen now. Supercharger, battery, AI.
And fleets of robo-taxis. I mean, really?
Look, and no doubt, I mean, that's something like Kathy and others, but I think that eventually will happen, but that's much further down the road. That's not factored into the stock. But when you start to look at right now, what I believe is $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion potential market cap, $10 potential earnings power. And I think investors right now are just starting to recognize what the sum of the parts. That's why, Sarah, in terms of the actual quarter, I just view it as margins, not actually putting a line in the sand saying that that's trough. I view that as table stakes relative to the broader story.
I get it, but the margins matters. So the automotive gross margins go to 18% this quarter. A year ago, they were over 26%. You think this is the bottom?
I think we are troughing. Next quarter is basically flattish. Then we start to rebound toward 20%. Scale increases across the board. And that's where I think you get the popcorn out going into next year.
And they're still higher, significantly higher than the other automakers, right? Those.
There we go, retesting the lows on the ES again, more likely to break than not.
But more and more, they're going to get the calls from Farley, from Marion, GM, and others, supercharger battery AI.
Dan, thank you. Good to get your first take. Dan Ives of Wedbush. He is a bull on Tesla. As we head to break, our roadmap for the rest of the hour, Dow trying for its longest daily win streak since 2019. Charles Schwab's Liz Ann Saunders joins us next to discuss.
Plus, Netflix shares are down almost 8%. We're going to get more on the numbers with one analyst who just raised his price target on that name. That's later in the hour.
And finally, from airlines to semis, we're breaking down the morning's biggest earnings movers and what investors need to know. Big show still ahead, with the Dow up 200 and the S&P just negative. We'll be right back.
While we're on breaks, then actually we can run through the upgrades and downgrades. So we did have no key names really on the upgrades apart for XP. So XP was upgraded by Credit Suisse from underperformed to neutral, price target $26 from $15. XP has been holding up at those highs, so quite nice recently at $24. I think it's above its third deviations. Okay, no, it's been consolidating now. So you can see, actually, if we zoom out. So when we originally hit these third devs, again, that was here. What you see quite often, if we don't get an overall reversal, what you get is hesitation. You get the pullback and consolidation. And what this does, it gives it time for the levels to readjust and get higher. So this is normally quite a bullish thing. So normally if I see this again, I'll be getting out near these lows on the, because I usually get short on these, get out then as you start to hold these lows, because again, if you're consolidating here, levels readjust, and then it really means they can now push from that $24, which was really the highest you would see it going, up to now, could go up to as high as kind of $28.75. So quite key to be paying attention to an XP. And again, they did get an upgrade today, and it's maybe why they're up just under 3%. We do then also onto the downgrades. So you have a lot of downgrades on ATVI. So let me quickly get this up, see what it's looking at. ATVI. It's actually staying flat on the day, but yeah, a lot of downgrades. You have all downgrades, one from Citi, one from Jefferies, one from UBS, and one from Edward Jones. You then also actually have a downgrade on Kavana. So let's have a quick look at what's happening on that. So with Kavana, you have a downgrade from RBC Capital. It downgrades to underperform from sector perform. Price target has, though, had a massive increase to $30 from $9. Don't think it's going to hold this range at all, though. We're extremely overbought. I would expect to see Kavana definitely start to sell off. And initiations. So on the initiations, actually, you do have Wolfrey Research basically just done a ton of initiations. MU research comes out, price target $80 and initiates it to outperform. They also put one out on NVIDIA, outperform, price target 570. So let's have a quick look at these. I think NVIDIA went red from green. Yep, tested that anchored VWAP, lovely move to the downside. And then MU, we'll quickly check that, and Marvel, because I think Marvel has been a big move, holding the anchored VWAP well as well. And Marvel still actually holding near these 60s. This was another example of where you consolidate and you stay near those highs. So again, this was at its third deviation when it did this move. You actually got a sell off. I think that's where we traded it, got out profit there. But again, you can see it's kind of consolidating at about a $10 range. And now the levels have really readjusted. Now it can push up to $82. So again, wouldn't be a short bias on something like that when it does a move like that.
Signed up. Those banks include things like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, as well as smaller credit unions and other banks. Unclear if the banks are going to charge for this instant payment.
Also, Treasury 10-year yields raised 10 basis points on day to 3.85.
Chair Jay Powell saying in a press release, over time, as more banks choose to use this tool, the benefits to individuals and businesses will include enabling a person to immediately receive a paycheck or a company to instantly access funds when an invoice is paid. This doesn't eliminate the PayPals and the Venmos of the world or Zelle. Theoretically, they could use the FedNow system, which is a bank-to-bank system.
Yeah, as expected, as soon as we cracked the yesterday's low on the futures, we've really now kind of just sunk down on the S&P futures and the SPY ETF. Tesla's still holding that deviation level quite nice, so you're having Netflix near the lows, still waiting ready to crack, but holding up well. VIX is starting to increase on the day, up at 1412. And I think those are the main things we're paying attention to as of right now.
Obviously, they can take that money out, but there's actually a hold on that account. It's really for people who don't have that money on account. Say a small business guy who's doing a big project, gets a payment, has to wait till that payment clears. It could really help them out.
My question is, with moves like this, are we inching closer to and this is a leap, a CBDC, a central bank digital currency?
US stocks extend full, NASDAQ now down 1%.
Digital. Is this a precursor?
I think it could be, but it's not the same thing. Some people are going to make that leap. Sarah, you're smart enough not to do it immediately, but eventually this could be the backbone of a central bank digital currency. But there is a very long way to go, including congressional approval for something like that.
Yeah, they won't even really outright commit to what and when. So also, Steve, you're standing there in front of the All America survey, big graphic. So tell us what you're seeing from Americans right now.
We are seeing, Sarah, the CNBC All-America Economic Survey finding a modest blip up in economic optimism, though compared to the survey's long-run averages, attitudes are still pretty dismal. Take a look here on what we have when we ask people, how's the economy? Well, in the prior survey, 14% said it was excellent or good. Now that's up 6 points to 20%. And then those who saying it's fair or poor, coming down 6 points. But don't get too excited, because this number, long-run average, probably double, and this number, long-run average, about half. So we still have a long way to go to get back to normal feelings. How about will the economy get better? The outlook here, again, a blip up in optimism here, but this is below long-run averages. Stay the same a little bit more, and then a decline in those.
Also, just to note, in about 8 minutes, or 7 minutes now, we do have the natural gas storage being released. Again, normally a fade opportunity. We will be trading it. I tend to trade it off the futures. Tends to be a lot more liquid. So yeah, normally a fade opportunity though. So we'll be trading that in 7 minutes time.
There's a big concern out there, and it's a place where America is actually united in hating or being concerned about it.
What's up, son? Don't think I've seen you here before. Welcome to the stream. Any stocks you want to run through? Again, we got the nat gas coming out in about 6 minutes now, 6.5 minutes. So we'll be trading that, but we got some time before that if you want to run through anything.
Democrats, immigration, border security, big for Republicans. Independents care a lot about health care. And then kind of this grouping down here, 7, 9, 10% say crime is the biggest issue in the country. All of this bit of optimism blipping up into the stock market views here. And you can see that there has been a blip up in whether or not people think it's a good time to invest. It's got to come all the way over here.
Also, just get ready for that natural gas storage. The forecasts are at 40 billion.
But again, come over here before the pandemic, and you got to find these are more normal averages. People generally are upbeat or a little more even on this. Right now, if you go back.
What, just looking for Cavanna? No problem. This one, you're probably not going to like it if you're long bias on this. That's all I'll say up front. this is when I look at this stock, all I see is basically a crashing coming. And the reason I say that is, again, we'll throw on this chart. So again, this is how I always do my analysis, and here you got the first deviation. 68% of data should trade below that data. Then you have this blue deviation, that's our second. 95% of data should trade below that. Then you have the third. Now this is 99.7. So whenever you're above this green deviation, you expect the stock to pull back and start trading back below this level relatively quickly. Again, tends to be short-lived if you're trading above that level. So basically, as I see Cavana right now, anything really above $45, $47 is extremely overbought. Expect it to be short, well, basically pull back. And again, I am holding a position in this as a disclaimer. I am short bias. What I'm doing is a few covered stocks, so shorting the shares, buying the calls. And I'm also just holding some outright puts because, yeah, at this kind of high, I'm banking on a lot more that there's going to be a pullback. Again, I like defined risk because if there is a squeeze, there's no point being stupid in the position. So yeah, got defined risk, but if we do start to pull back, that's going to be where I make the money. If it continues to go against, then obviously we got defined risk, but I think the probability of us back below $50 compared to $70 is going to be a lot greater.
And it might be kind of this. People are feeling better about the economic situation because of the stock market, and people are feeling better about the stock market because of the economic situation. But
again, 4 minutes now till the natural gas storage.
This morning, Steve's All America survey that consumers and businesses are feeling better about future activity.
Yeah, so that was interesting with a PMI like Philly Fed with weakness at the headline level, but
no problem as well. What are you currently doing with it? Are you holding the stock long, or you got options on it or anything?
Of uncertainties right now. Yes, we're in disinflation, but we know that the June numbers were flattered by the year-over-year base effects versus June of last year. The economic data for the most part has been good. I think claims being lower is to benefit, but you saw some weak housing data today, and that's coming in the aftermath of what has been very strong housing data, and I hope that prior beleaguered area, consistent with what has been our rolling recession thesis, might be an offset to anywhere like services or labor market that starts to
paper trading right now. I got a put on it for $51. Okay, cool. So you are playing against the move. So yeah, we're looking at it in the same direction then. Should play out quite nice. What expiration do you have on it?
Consumer sentiment, based on what questions are asked, tends to be biased a little bit more based on what inflation is doing. Consumer confidence has a little more of a labor market bias to it. So it's important to keep that in mind when you do the comparison between those numbers as to what's driving either lower optimism or positive optimism. But there's certainly a pickup, at least in long.
Yeah, sorry about that. Don't know what happened there. But anyway, we do have about 2.5 minutes till the release now. July 23rd, okay. Yeah, it should be good, but... Oh, wait, no, July 23rd. Oh, no, that's Friday, isn't it? Hey, July 23rd. How can it be July 23rd? It's a Sunday. Surely you only got 21s or 28s, unless you're looking next year. Oh, July 21st. Okay, yeah, it makes a lot more sense. Yeah, cool. Could be a bit risky playing that because, again, they don't have to happen instantly, but hopefully I guess we see that pullback come earlier. I prefer playing out a bit more myself. I think my... I've also actually got a vertical spread. I think that's the most recent one. I think that expires, I think, on the 11th of August. I think that's my closest to expiration one. Again, now we have about 1 minute and 10 seconds to the nat gas release. So just getting ready to trade this. Again, you're still seeing the ES, so the S&P futures really crashing down. Bonds are holding up all right now, but you're also seeing the euro crumble. So again, the dollar's getting strong. What's your day? I think mine are August 11th. I'll check after this net gas though, because it's coming out in 40 seconds. this should be the key move. Again, my trade plan for this is normally just a fade. Meaning if it pushes up on the release, I look to play against it. If it pushes down, play against it. And again, we will be paying attention for the number. What I'll do as well is I'll put Squawk on so we can hear it come out. You'll be able to hear them shout it out, basically.
10 seconds.
Okay. So again, we're pushing it up. I'm short in that move.
$41 BCF, $41 BCF. That's lower than the forecast of $44 BCF.
So yeah, pretty much in line though. You normally see bigger.
Noticing a bit of strength in natural gas following that print.
Yeah, you tend to normally see a bit of a different or a bigger miss. Okay, and I'm out. Waiting for that to close. There we go. So that wasn't too bad. We made 220 on that trade. There you go. And that's from the trade.
Spin-off Kenvue moving lower today despite reporting top
So
and
not a
bottom line
bad
beats
trade
this morning.
opportunity.
The company's first
Again, that's
full
normally a
quarterly
weekly thing we
results
see.
since it went public just
So that's
today.
what normally what we're trading for.
Mongon,
Now I
Kenvue
can check in here. I
CEO,
can
joins us
check
for
the
a
Cabana.
first on CNBC interview right now. Thibaut, it's good to have you here for the first
Yeah,
earnings
August
report.
11th is
The
my
fundamentals
closest to
look
expiration ones.
strong. You saw revenue growth.
I just noticed that's going to be super loud. Yeah, so my closest to expiration is the August 11th. That's for the vertical spreads. So again, that's defined risk on those ones. So yeah, closest to expiration or 11th of August. But the nat gas trade was nice. Out of that completely. Again, we'll see how it does. They've not been as clean recently, and it's why we take the profits a bit earlier. Like you can see here, didn't actually get that complete fade, so it's more wait for the spike. Our average was literally dead on that 50. And then you just trade that pullback. Again, we traded 2 contracts, $220.
Health space, the power of our portfolio of brands. So very pleased with our results, but also very confident in our future. And we also announced this morning our very first dividend as Kenvue, initiating our
Yeah, still crashing down. Again, Euro's getting super weak, really out of nowhere. I don't think any news has dropped to signal this. And again, dollar's going to be strong. Also seeing that retest on the anchored VWAP, $55.24.
Result of the announcement from James.
Was my thought on the VIX. Not too much on it, really. Let me get the full chart up. Yeah, VIX basically at fair value. I guess to be expected. I mean, we're not being too crazy in the market. Everything's moving relatively, you're moving 1% on the high end a day on the S&P. Not really going to expect too much of a big move on the VIX. Only time I'm paying attention to the VIX really right now is if we're kind of under that $13, and then I tend to, then I'll focus on the VIX. But I mean, right now, basically at fair value, nothing really to focus on, I don't think, on the VIX.
If it's a split, you are potentially going to end up with shareholders then who actually want to own your shares, which is, I would assume, you view positively instead of in a spinoff then being forced on some shareholders who then sell. Can you comment on what your expectations are for your shareholder base?
Would have ended up getting that full fade on the nat gas if we did hold the whole way. But again, I think it would have been like 2-3 ticks, so an extra $60. It's not the end of the world.
Among our new investors in seeing the potential of Kenvue, what I can tell you is that we are fully ready to live as a fully independent company. You see it in our.
Oh right, yeah, the Cabana
results,
crashing.
and we are confident.
That's moving crazy.
So on the fundamentals, some might quibble with the gross margins, which were lower than last year.
Only thing I can see on this coming out any recently is Wedbush maintains underperform on Cabana, but raises price target to $40. So again, it may be, even though it's a price target hike, because it did go from $1 to 40. Where we are right now, again, we are just very extended on the stock, so it makes sense. Even if price targets coming out can still be taken as bearish because all the price targets are going to be below current price.
So we continue to be focused on mitigating these headwinds. with efficiencies in our operations.
Should be nice on your put now, though. I'm assuming you're now up on that position, because it will now be, what, in the money?
We intend to continue doing moving forward.
You had a significant decrease in organic sales growth at Skin Health and Beauty. I think the deceleration mainly driven by volume.
You're also seeing the S&P crash to the lows as well. Again, Euro's on the lows as well, but nowhere near as strong. But the S&P is being strong. UAL holding that anchored VWAP relatively well as of now. Tesla breaking those lows, and you finally see Netflix crack those lows as well. So could start to see a bit of a breakout on Netflix, and that'll bring the S&P further to the downside. So it could kind of be a cycle if we see a bit more of a pop on the Netflix side.
Last year, our volumes were up low single digits this quarter, which I think shows the health of our brands, health of our equities, and the continued underlying strong demand for our skin health and beauty products. So happy about the performance of this segment as well this quarter.
What do you typically see in recessionary periods, and how big of a risk is it that consumers will trade down to more generic private label away from the Neutrogenas and the brands that you carry?
Yeah, you may have seen consumers downtrading in more traditional staple.
Also, we do have the 4 week and the 8 week bill auction coming out in 55 minutes. So around 11:30.
Growth we saw in self-care and skin health and beauty this quarter. We see consumers continuing to focus on looking for efficacious products that they can relate to, that they trust, that have been in their medicine cabinet.
Also, there's a quick thing, including this week's natural gas. Again, it's seasonal. That's what we always expect. You can see the 5-year average, the 5-year maximum minimum range. And again, obviously, we're trading within this the whole time. So everything's coming out as expected, playing very seasonal. I forgot to turn that down, so hopefully you could see. But if not, I'll quickly restate it. Again, this is the nat gas report. Staying in line, again, very seasonal move, and that's why you're basically just seeing it as a wave.
And by US consumers for efficacious Neutrogena sun care products.
Thibaut, appreciate the color and you joining us on earnings today. Talk through it.
Also, we do have the fear and greed index still at 81, has been 81 for the last few days now. And then also on the crypto fear and greed at 56, still in greed. Up a bit from yesterday. Yesterday was at 50 out of 100, which was neutral.
They're expected to hear testimony from an aide who was with the former president on January 6. South Korean officials say the U.S. soldier who crossed the border to North Korea earlier this week was in prison for nearly 50 days before he bolted. Authorities say Army Private Travis King was there because he failed to pay a $4,000 fine on charges that included damaging a police car.
Tesla now hitting down 7% on the day.
In Berlin, police.
So Tesla's really catching up to the Netflix. Again, Netflix is down about 8%. We could probably see Tesla soon outperform. Carvana still continuing down, pushing down to $49 now.
Circuses, but none are missing a lion. So now they're looking into whether it escaped from someone's house. Send it back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Silvana.
You got it.
Still ahead, Netflix, one of the biggest laggards on the S&P. This follows, of course, the company's reporting results after the close yesterday. We're going to talk to one analyst who just raised his price target on the name. That'll be after the break. Squawk on the Street, right back.
Yes, I do have a Discord. It should just be in the description. Free to join, obviously. And yeah, we do post quite a lot of stuff in here. Again, obviously we can chat during the day. I'll put in my trade ideas and all of that stuff. We also post a newsletter every once in a while. Any YouTube videos, live streams will be posted in there. Notes. This is quite good. I don't really see this in many servers, but this is basically just where analysts or whatever are talking about stock, and you can kind of start seeing other people's views on those stocks. You also have the filings, whole activities, upgrades, downgrades, initiations, earnings, live stock market news. We're still trying to get this fixed because we used to have this coming in through Twitter, but since they've changed the API, it's not been as good. So I'll post through the manually the key stuff. And again, then we also got the daily calendar, which I think will be covering the key stuff. And again, if you want to be listening to Bloomberg News Live, We also have that as a voice chat, so you can join. And again, you can be able to listen in there while you're trading, and should be all easy. So yeah, we do have a Discord. Should be in the description, or is in the description. And obviously, yeah, free to join. Starting to see the S&P again, breaking those lows again. Yep, cracked those lows. Bonds are starting to bounce a bit. Euro at the lows, so again, dollar at the highs. Tesla now down 7.25%. UAL retesting that anchored VWAP. Looks like we're going to probably start breaking, which would make sense because it's holding up well. But again, the overall market is selling off. Again, Netflix is actually relatively strong, considering we're staying at these lows and not cracking down. When you look at what's happening to the S&P, it's actually acting really strong, which is interesting to see. Cavana still pushing down. Don't see Discord. Let me just double check. I would have thought it would be in there.
United and American Airlines stocks heading in different directions this morning. Philip Bowe has been tracking the action, interviewing the
yeah, if you go into, I mean, I'll paste it into the chat anyway, but yeah, if you go into the description anyway, it's under Lumley Trading Links, should be just under the website. Oh, you see it now? All good. Posted it in the chat anyway, so if anyone does want to join, it's there for you. I might actually set up a bot actually to go in the chat, and it can just automatically send things like the Discord links for everyone to join. Again, while you're at it, if you guys want as well, newsletter is right below the Discord. The Discord link. Again, we don't do too many newsletters, so you won't get spammed or anything, but it's just for any good trading opportunities that I think deserves its own segment, or just for certain trading strategies, we'll post them through Discord as well.
Look at the revenue increase they're expecting for the third quarter. From Scott Kirby's perspective, the international growth is where he believes the company can make some real headway.
I wish we had more airplanes. I mean, we're the only large airline in the world.
Also, guys, let me know if there's any stocks you want to run through. Nothing really too keys on the scanners, so if there's anything you're watching, let me know.
Environment, which we expect to continue at least through the decade. I wish we had even more.
As you take a look at the airline index, keep in mind that the global number of flights is still below 2019 levels by about 8%. That's one of the reasons why the airlines have pricing power right now. They simply don't have the capacity that they had pre-pandemic, guys.
So, do they have enough pilots and enough crew?
Delta's still holding up, then if I should sell.
Lately, Phil, because in part of all
the thing I'd be careful for Delta, because yeah, to me it's kind of mixed signals as well. The reason I say that is, again, when we were here, we were basically at its third deviations. You're starting to pull back, giving these levels time to readjust and push higher. So it now means if we do continue up, those targets can be further, but at the same time could be bearish in that we're just struggling to break through. So again, I couldn't really say. Normally this is when I jump out, and if we get a next move, I'll be happily avoid that and wait for the next trading opportunity. So again, might be down to you. Could potentially just scale out, or could, if you're holding the shares, maybe do some covered calls, and then if it goes up, obviously you sell those shares and you make your premium. If it goes down, you can at least offset that risk with the premium you make from the covered calls.
A whole lot of factors on what trigger the kind of
talking-
page sharing.
Sorry, I didn't realize that was quiet. They're talking about the password sharing for Netflix, which I've also noticed myself. At my house, it ended up blocking it for a bit, and then it's just started working again. Also saw that with Disney Plus, so maybe they were just like still currently trying and lowering it. It hasn't been properly official yet. So again, ours has now gone back to working without having to buy another account as of yet.
That was clearly a beat, a few million better than they expected. They're telling us it's going to be the same in the third quarter, plus or minus 1 or 2 million. So you're talking about 6 million subs, another 6 million. We have 7 million in the fourth quarter, so that puts you about 21 million new subs this year. and 25 million subs is our estimate for next year. The big question is, when does revenue per sub go up?
I mean, you're not going to, I don't know what you're going to pay for a company that's growing revenues maybe 3%, which is what they put up this quarter. I mean, that's not going to work. So.
Well, we think you exit the year probably closer to 10%, and they do 18% next year. So the key is next year, if revenue per sub is up 8%, then you're looking at potential
Consumption expected to keep supporting U.S. economy, says Goldman Sachs.
costs in 2024 will be flat with 22. Why are they saying that? Basically, with the strike, they're now saying content costs will probably end up being down in the back half of this year, right? And so they're like, it'll be down, margins will be better, but factor in that they'll go back to kind of normal content
What's that
spending
number, by
next
the
year.
way, these days?
Kind of around $10 billion. It's a big number.
Yeah.
The content spend.
Yeah.
But is that a good thing or bad thing for investors? Because yes, it increases free cash flow and helps profitability, but Netflix needs to keep the hits coming to keep those subscribers engaged.
Correct.
UAL acting strong off that anchor VWAP. Again, if we were trading that, target would be the VWAP at 55.93 because the market's so weak. Don't want to be pushing our luck on any longs.
Linear network television is, but all the international content isn't impacted. And I don't know about you, but we're trained now on Netflix to watch international shows with subtitles and dubbing.
I've gone
whereas we
deep
don't
on,
do that
on
on
Danish
ABC.
TV. Have you?
No,
Borgen. It's like
really?
it's the West Wing of Denmark. I highly recommend it.
Okay. West
Has
Wing of
an even
Denmark.
more likable central character.
So that's probably another reason why they're waiting to push on the paid sharing. So think about it. Back to school happens, people turn on the TVs mid-September. If there are no new shows, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, you're going to get consumers saying, why am I paying for cable when they're going to Netflix? And then we can talk about the advertising.
Well,
when
I
that
want to
kicks
talk
in.
about the advertising because the idea these subscribers who are either new or being pushed to subscribe beyond their current plan seem to be going to the ad tier. But have they monetized on that front yet?
No. They've said there's a few percentage points right now of ad subscribers. Remember, the television advertising season runs from September to May, right? The fact is, even if they had more ad-based users, you're not going to get the money from advertisers, right? Right now, this is the upfront season. Typically, you negotiate now, and you get a handshake in typically early August on how much money you can get. So that money wouldn't even really be available in September. So they're typically in internet, you're being forced to kind of guess. I got to pay a high multiple and guess what happens around the corner. Netflix is literally laid out for you the next 18 months of how revenue accelerates, right? This pushing paid sharing to the premium subscribers who are not paying yet. Then we start to see advertising in the fourth quarter, the first quarter. Then you start to see they're canceling the low. Right now, you can't get the basic plan anymore in the US or Canada.
Also in the UK by that. The S&P in general starting to get a bit of a strong bank. See that nicer bounce in on the UAL. Again, not really seeing that bounce on the euro dollar, and the bonds aren't really being phased. I'm going to wait to 11 or something for Gavanna. Good to hear, good to hear. To fall again, yeah. Starting to get a bit of a spike down now, so looking nice. Yeah, with the Gavanna one, for me, it's more of a longer term play. I think, yeah, definitely a lot of money to make from the intraday moves and kind of those quick moves. But it can be kind of harder to predict those tops, so I'm just waiting for kind of that bigger move to happen. And then, again, that's why I've kind of got those longer dated expirations, and I don't need to think about it too much on the intraday wins or moves. I can't use my cousin's Netflix account on my TV anymore. I'm guessing you're located in the US, and maybe it's a bit different out there. Or maybe you've just been unlucky because I guess it's all beta period now. They're testing everything. But yeah, from my side, yeah, it went for maybe 2 weeks not working. Didn't really affect me because I used YouTube or something instead. And then, yeah, randomly it just came back to work again. So I'm not too sure why that is. That account is a UK account, so that might be one of the differences. I'm not too sure.
You're like the amazing amount of content, and then it normalized. Now you're seeing a profit focus by all the big media companies for a host of reasons. And I mean, look, you had basically Bob Iger in your interview talk about how they probably need to restructure the company for the future of streaming.
Yeah, it's an interesting time and will continue to be. What's the multiple you're using to get to 515?
We're at 25 times.
Okay.
But I will tell you, look, Apple and Microsoft close to 30 times. NASDAQ, depending on the day, kind of like high 20s times earnings. So again, we are looking out, but again, given the visibility to the numbers, we think the market will pay that.
Jason, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it ran 8% yesterday into earnings, so it's kind of just a give back. As we had to break, check out the biggest gainers right now in the S&P. They're earnings related. Look at Zions Bancorp, regional banks getting a big boost today and this week. That one's up 9%. This is the top performing sector of the week, the financials, up almost 3%, and also having another update today. Johnson & Johnson is there as well, and some of the other earnings movers. Squawk on the Street, we'll be right back.
Okay, while they're on break again, can't see any kind of key news or new news coming out. Starting to see a bit more of a bounce again on the S&P, so going quite nice, quite well. Looks like UAL will probably hit our target of the 55.92. So that should be decent. And then Tesla looks like we're coming back to retest at 272.87. Now on this retest could be a potential act as resistance, continue lower, so I'd be watching the SPY because that's probably how Tesla will react. We got the Gavanna on there. It is crazy how this stock though, literally within a 1 minute candle moves 2%. Yeah, 2.18% a dollar in a 1 minute candle. It's actually quite crazy. I want to see how much tomorrow's puts are. Well, they're already up 100% on the day. Oh yeah, that 50. Did you say you had a 51 or a 50 put? Yeah, 51. Yeah, the 51's are already up 130% today. Looking good. Sucks. I sold UAL for $50 even. $50. Oh, a couple months back. Okay. Yeah, I guess it would have been up a nice 10% move. The airlines in general have just been flying for. Well, I don't know why they've been flying this much. Yeah, a bit weird. You kind of want to. The only play I got on that was the Delta short. I think that was maybe a week ago as a swing trade, but I got out of that one relatively quickly as we pulled back quite harsh, quite quick. But yeah, everything's just super trending right now. It's quite weird. We're not really getting much pullbacks, and when they do come, they're pretty small. But I think this earnings season will finally be that reason or that catalyst to kind of get those bigger pullbacks to start acting now. However, yeah, because everything's been a lot I found it easier to trade like AT&T. We traded this 2 days back. I think we posted it on the Discord then. If we zoom out a tiny bit. Yeah, we caught this around kind of that 1350, basically kind of actually near those lows. And then, yeah, within a day it gapped up. What was that? 6.5%, closed up near 10%. So relatively nice moves on AT&T, and that was quite a quick mover, which we haven't been seeing as much recently. So that's pretty nice to see.
BC.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Dominic Chu. Stocks are hovering just near their worst levels of the session right now. We are tracking some weakness in consumer discretionary stocks overall. Among them, D.R. Horton, some of the biggest laggards and home builders, giving up some heftier gains in the pre-market. Now that drop comes despite
S&P testing yesterday's lows once again. UAL hit target.
Of existing home sales that we saw earlier this
and VIX is also starting to pull back a bit.
Offset pressures from higher interest rates and input costs, but shares of D.R. Horton, as you can see here, and its peers sliding in the early action. Sarah, many of them hit record highs earlier on. They've lost momentum. I'll send things back downtown to you folks at the stock exchange.
All right, we are.
News is playing, but I'm just going to be back in a second. I'm just going to go grab a drink.
Tobacco giant Philip Morris topping profit expectations for the quarter, but warning of volume declines ahead. Shares have been underperforming this year. We're going to break things down with the CEO of that company. We're going to talk to the CEO of regional bank Synovus, all over the earnings extravaganza in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
So typical. When I leave, I make sure I've got the stream on my phone so I can hear when the news ends or whatever, and I saw as soon as I left the news end, so just silence for no reason, which is a bit annoying. Again, still seeing a bit more of a push, see if we can break that resistance on the ES. Getting UAL, I'm out completely. Break straight through that target though and continuing to fly. I guess that's because the ES is picking up strength, but didn't really want to stay in. Just in case we did continue that downward move. Team Mobile, we won't really be day trading that. Nice for a swing. Netflix on those lows again. Seems to be weird now. Netflix, I'm not touching Netflix today after we're seeing how it's moving. Now it's finally cracking the lows and getting a bit more downward momentum when the SPY starts to, or when the S&P starts to bounce. Seems a bit weird. Let me get the Cabana chart off. I just saw you said $48. So let's see how that nice is looking. Well, the thing I even find crazy is it does look like a nice chart from this aspect though. So even got the anchored VWAP. So you got this dark blue one. This is the year well, from the beginning of the year, so Jan 1st, anchored VWAP. And then you have the quarter anchored VWAP as well. So that's from June 1st. And I mean, that's at $28 and $20. And we're currently nearly at, well, basically $50. So big sell-off needed to even get near those VWAPs, which is quite crazy.
Health.com.
Welcome back. Wanted to check on another feature of the market so far this morning during this busy earnings day.
Also, what are you looking to do with your Cabana? Are you looking to get out today then, or are you holding into tomorrow's expiration?
That as well. Sarah, it doesn't appear to be as much about the fundamentals of the business, although they did obviously have a higher net charge-off rate. Sort of things are normalizing in their credit portfolio, and they did increase the provision for credit losses by $756 million. That said, it seems to be this card product.
Does seem like as well, like Tesla, instead of trying to retest and break through that level, again, it's just retesting and fading down, like we said, to be careful of. It seems like it, even though the S&P is holding up. So if S&P falls back as well, that will probably be quite a strong downtrend on Tesla.
This really good nugget from the CFO that I pulled out on jobs and what's happening to people that either lose their jobs or are able to gain their jobs, because of course this is a company that's tied to the consumer. And the core cohort of folks that we typically target, what we've seen, went a little fast there, is basically the fact that many people who lose their jobs are able to quickly get their jobs, and that has allowed them to have better confidence and better incomes and better spending power. It was just interesting color, I thought, from a consumer company as we look at a sort of softening labor market and what that might mean for some of these companies.
Yeah.
But as you say, sounds like the bad news came from elsewhere.
And maybe the suspension of the company's buyback. All right, that does it for this hour of Squawk on the Street. A lot more Sarah Eisen coming your way right after this.
Good tease.
Thank you.
Okay, they're on breaks. Feels like they're on a break every 5 minutes. I do think anyway we're coming into 11. We may call it a day. Because mainly, at least on my account, again, we've got the Nat Gas trade. That was the only day trade I was really looking at. And a UAL for the day. Everything else is basically swing trades. So not too much hanging around all day. But weather's relatively nice as well. So might just go on a walk or something. Or go out on the kayak. So I think I'm going to call it here. Hope, well, good to see some new faces in here. Gloria, I've seen a few times now. How do you say your name? Is it Sunzela? Sunzela? But let me know how you pronounce it if you're going to be around for future streams. But yeah, nice seeing you as well. A new face around. Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. Well, yep, hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope to see you next one. And that's it. Peace.